Welcome to Ask Antar. I am Melissa Faith Payne, and of course, I am joined by Jackson Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba. Mayor, how are you feeling today?
Feeling good. Excited about today's segment. Really appreciated the last one, and grateful that I've been told that residents responded and sent in questions. So I'm interested in what's on their mind and looking forward to providing the best answers I possibly can.
And the premise of the show, like when we did it last week, we just kind of had a conversation about different topics, but this time we actually had residents who sent in a lot of questions that you've not actually seen. Talk about why you didn't want to see the questions beforehand.
Well, it's not, it's not atypical of me to not like to see questions if I'm a part of a panel or any discussion, because I like to give a natural response. Sometimes when you see questions prior to whatever you're doing, you think about what your response would be, and you spend more time trying to match what you consider to be your response as opposed to just answering the questions naturally. So it usually works better for me in just giving an honest answer. And then, this is what we do. We work on this every day, so I should be informed as to what's going on.
Okay. One question was about how much time do you get to spend in the community? And I want to start with that because you were out today doing something I think was pretty special. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, the most enjoyable part of the work that I do is to meet and be with community. It really takes me back to my roots. I came from a family that was heavily engaged in community organizing. So I love people, and I love meeting people and hearing from people. And today I had a unique experience. I was a part of a ride-along with one of our JPD officers, along with the police chief. He was also taking part in this ride-along. And so just getting a bird's eye view of exactly what they contend with each and every day. And, we had some unfortunate circumstances to take place. And I think it's important because we ask people to carry on these very difficult jobs. And we need to have a basic understanding of what they deal with, which helps us to, find alternative ways of addressing some of the challenges and helps us support them in the roles that they serve the residents with.
And I'm just going to ask, what was the response specifically, because I saw some kids that you had a chance to greet. Talk about the response to you being out today.
We were at one of our local grocery stores that an incident took place a few weeks back. So we just wanted to stop by and check and let them know that we appreciated their business while at the same time checking to see how the circumstance is now. And there was a mother with her 3 children in line. And so just love, they ran over and the kids said they want to be a mayor one day, and also said, a couple of them said they wanted to be a police officer. And so I loved it. I loved the energy. And so, I will say this, that, one thing, even though I didn't necessarily grow up wanting to be a mayor, I'm grateful for the role, but the idea of being mayor wasn't something that was foreign to me, because I had the benefit of living in the neighborhood with the first black mayor of the city of Jackson. And so our children need to see examples of all of the things that they could potentially be. So that was exciting.
Awesome. All right, well, I'm going to get to some of these questions now. Let's see where we shall start. Here's one question. So we got the questions. There were some that were on social media. We had some that replied to the website. So we just pulled all of those questions, and so I'll just throw them at you, and we'll just see what sticks.
I understand we had a lot to come in, so we have enough to cover the time.
So it's a whole gamut. Are we going to get rid of Richard's disposal? Because I'm concerned that the water bill is going to go up even more than it already is. And so that, of course, is a question about garbage.
Well, unfortunately, I can't give a definitive answer as to, who the garbage company will be ultimately. What I can say is that the RFP the review committee has actually looked at the RFP. They have shared with me that they will be making a recommendation to me very soon. And so I'm eagerly anticipating what that recommendation is. And I will say that they know, and I've repeated that my principal concern is to keep the rates as low as possible for our residents. Now, I owe our people honesty. And so I think that we should expect a higher rate than we were going to get. And that was the unfortunate part about doing another RFP, is because the cost, CPI, the cost to purchase trucks, the cost to purchase gas have all increased. And so doing an RFP again means that we're now in a different market. We have to, those responses are going to reflect the market that we're in now. And so yes, it will be an increase, regardless of who the vendor is. But we have to make sure that we protect at all costs the rates that our residents have to pay.
Okay. All right, next question. Some of these questions I haven't read myself, so bear with me. Studies show that poverty is a root cause of crime. So what are you and your administration doing to bring job creation to the city of Jackson and keep the companies we already have here?
Well, we're aiming every day to be a business-friendly city and do all that we can to have workforce development. I want to give a shout out to Metro Booming, development that is doing workforce development right in South Jackson. There used to be a time where there were people in search of jobs. Now you have jobs in search of people. And so when cities are soliciting new corporate partners to come into their city, one of the principal things that they're looking for is a capable workforce. And so we're positioning ourselves in a way that we make sure that Jacksonians are ready to receive the jobs that can come their way. The other thing that we're looking at is how do we creatively fill the gaps ourselves. One of the things we're doing is trying to look at Union Station and reimagine that space as an incubator space that new jobs, small businesses can be there. Of course, we're excited, to have a footprint of Amazon in the area and more coming. But we also want to be the place that can create the next Amazon. Things like the Bean Path and what Dr. Nashley Cephas is doing, creating a tech district, a tech space where we can educate our children on this emerging and swiftly growing, career field. And so those are some of the things that we're doing, as well as looking at, cooperative business models so that we can start filling some of the gaps ourselves. Not only, proving that we have capable people who will support the enterprise that we want to see, but also as a signal to the market that it's dangerous not to invest in Jackson. So those are things, and I thank the person for the question, because wherever you find high poverty, you usually find high crime. And so that means that we have to be able to deploy multiple tools in our efforts to create, a safe environment, not only a capable police department, but interventions that work and a strong economy that gives people a better lease on life.
But we see businesses moving in. I mean, you would think if you listen to the outsiders that businesses are fleeing, but we are also seeing, ribbon cuttings left and right.
We're going to ribbon cuttings all the time. And that's why you have to beware of a single narrative. People will leave you in a hopeless state. And sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes you have to be cautious of the motives of a person who wants you to see things from that premise. And so we are seeing new businesses every day. Any business that is lost is one business too many. And so we don't want to see any business lost. But the reality is that, when we started, Capitol Street was a ghost town. There were no businesses on Capitol Street, many vacant buildings. Over the years, we've seen a renaissance of Capitol Street. We've seen businesses come and go. We've seen businesses in some instances go not because they wanted to go and not because they weren't able to turn a profit, but maybe just disagreements with who they were leasing from. Right. So sometimes there are many circumstances to why a business may leave. They may be owned by a corporate entity that doesn't live in Jackson, that doesn't exist in Jackson, and the decision may be just based on their corporate footprint and where the expensive moving materials costs.
Yeah, okay. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. back to Ask Antar. And we, of course, are basically drilling the mayor with questions from residents that you guys have submitted via Facebook, via our website, questions about things within the city. So this question, I don't have who it comes from, but this is a question that a lot of people have asked, not just online, but also just even in our city council meetings. Why are there so many traffic lights out in the city, and why does it take so long to fix them?
Yeah. So there are a few reasons for the number of traffic lights that we have out. One is the age of the lights. There was a big bond referendum, I believe, in the early 90s to purchase a number of our traffic signals. And, you know, as technology goes, as it reaches the end of its useful life, when you purchase them all at the same time, then you have a number of them that decline at the same time. And so that's one of the challenges we've been trying to catch up with. Additionally, we have a number of outside factors that have contributed to some of our issues with traffic lights. Accidents, a number of 18-wheelers that catch those traffic signals or the wiring and pulls them down, or just vehicular accidents that run into poles or some of the electrical boxes. Another factor that is really concerning that we really just became aware of and actually have some video footage that I believe our police department will be releasing is that we have reason to believe that we have an actual arsonist that is sabotaging some of our traffic signals. And so we had an arsonist that we have footage right there on Pascagoula. We have them on tape, meaning we will release that footage, and we are looking for you. That has been setting fire to some of the, this individual set fire to one of the electrical cabinets for our traffic lights. So anyone who's wondering why the traffic light on the corner of Pascagoula and President Street is out, it is because someone actually set fire to that box. We know that we've had other electrical fires. I don't know that our first inclination was that it was actually, you know, arson, but I believe we have to consider that as a potential factor now.
Oh, wow. Okay. The next question concerns animal control. Okay. This is the question, says, what is being done about animal control? Specifically, what are the plans for opening an animal shelter? Strays as well as owner negligence are huge problems in the city. It is truly disappointing that the capital city has no city shelter.
Well, the city of Jackson is not and has never been in the animal shelter business. And I don't think that in the near future that's, you know, a service that we can provide. Where we have been is in the animal control business. A shelter, you know, provides different services to animals. There are some private organizations that provide shelter to animals, but the city, you know, tries to control the animal population based on health threats, based on public safety threats, and a number of other factors. Now, our animal control unit has been closed due to conditions that needed to be repaired. And so we closed that out of abundance of caution. The actual facility, because we didn't feel that it represented the type of environment that was representative of how we want to treat animals. And so while those repairs are underway, that facility is closed. Now our division of animal control still takes calls and responds to those calls, but the capacity to house is different. So they have to work in conjunction with other cities. They have to collaborate with some of the private organizations that do actually have animal shelters. And sometimes that makes it a more difficult pursuit to take on. And so we're working, you know, to get that back online as soon as possible. We've met with animal rights groups. They talked about the potential of grants. Now, unfortunately, we haven't been able to bring those grants into fruition yet. And I don't believe that they have the money on hand to completely redo the facility from their end. And so that means that we have to take some of the internal funds that we have, and we will, in order to make sure that we escalate the progress of that. But that will be an animal control facility,
right,
not an animal shelter.
Okay. Let's switch gears just a little bit. When are crime reports going to be available to the public like they once were? It's been about 3 years and they have not been made available.
Well, to be clear, the fact that that data wasn't readily available wasn't due to any effort from either the police or the administration to hide those things. We went to a different technology to record our data, Tyler technology at the time. Real world data, I believe, is the component, or maybe I'm getting that name wrong. And it didn't interface well with some of the software that the state is using, and even that the federal government is using. That software that they use works very well, for instance, with our Department of Administration and our budget department and all of those components of the city, but not so much in the public safety sector. So we've pivoted to another type of software that we think will interface better and we'll be able to support it. But we're not waiting on that. We've already launched, and I want to commend Chief Wade. We've already launched real-time command meetings where people can come out. It's open to the public. This is once a month. They have more than meetings just once a month. But every month, residents can come out and see not only the data, but hear the conversations around the data that are taking place and strategies to address the issues.
Another thing, I know your communications team, what we're about to do, publish some of those numbers once we're able to, and do a crime newsletter. Talk a little bit about why, because this was something that you wanted.
Absolutely. Well, I think that what gets measured gets done. And so when we are seeking to affect change, whether it's, reducing crime, whether it's, addressing homelessness or the infrastructure, we have to have, real data so that we know what progress looks like. And so every week I meet with Chief Wade. Every week we talk about numbers, we talk about what our goals and strategies are. And so we want to publish that to the residents. And one of the reasons that we want them to have good information is because actually our violent crime has been going down over the last 3 years. And that's not necessarily the message that our residents receive when they watch the news.
Right. Those newsletters, also I know we're going to pass out at some of the community meetings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and take just a few more questions.
All right.
Welcome back. So I told you before we had a lot of questions about crime, and this is another one that I want to read to you. What do you plan to do about crime in the city? Is there going to be a curfew implemented?
Yeah. Well, one, we're not going to just use one tool to address crime. One, we're going to make certain that our police department, that they have the tools that they need to do their job as it pertains to addressing crime. I think one thing that is represented and not spoken to enough is that the Jackson Police Department has above the national average in crime solvability rate. That means that when crime happens, they are capturing and sending those cases off to be prosecuted better than the national average, and that's primarily what you look for from your police department. But we've also opened up an Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery. So that when an act of violence takes place, that we have the professionals there to address the family, deal with their trauma, and also reduce the likelihood of retaliation. When we're dealing with mental health issues, we're trying to make sure that we work with mental health professionals that can address that actual challenge instead of using the tool of policing where it should actually be a mental health approach. We're going to be a coordinator of other private and community organizations, working alongside them and the good work that they're already doing within the community. And then, when we look at issues like the curfew. I don't think that the idea or the notion, when we see crime rising amongst our younger demographic, the idea of a curfew is a bad idea.
Right.
But just as Judge Carlin Hicks said, one, there's some questions around the legality of detaining young people once they're out past the curfew. And then secondly, we've done that before and we've seen how it did not work. One, there does not exist a detention space for young people. And then we have to ask the question, is it the proper tool to use in every circumstance? And so what we're going to do is we are now working with one of our local churches. We're trying to put together a proposal that offers a curfew center where instead of arresting or detaining young people and trying to take them to a detention center or taking them back to the homes immediately that they left out of in the first place, we'll take them to a curfew center, which will have the mental health professionals, the social work trained professionals, and extracurricular activities. If a young person is escaping home because there's something going on in their home, then instead of detaining them and becoming a part of the problem, we want to apply a solution that ultimately gets to the root cause of why that young person may be on the street in the first place. If a criminal act happens, then there's a process for that. Mm-hmm. There are police for criminal acts. But merely just being out on the street, we want to make sure that we are addressing that problem with the right tools. And so that's why I'm really excited about it. I won't say the name of the local church just yet until we're able to, make sure that all of the pieces are in place. But we took what was an idea of addressing those young people and something I've really wanted to do for a while. The mayor of Baltimore, Maryland, mm-hmm. Told me about curfew centers that they've had. And so I'm going to give him credit the first 2 times, Melissa. By the 3rd time, I feel that I've said it more than him, so it'll be mine. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's how that works,
Yeah,
but we'll just go with it.
You start quoting people, then you say it so much, you just drop the name of the quote. Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important to say there's a difference between just making an ordinance and being actually able to enforce it. It's a difference there.
Yeah, it sometimes things are good in principle or,
paper.
Or on paper, but, the actual execution of that is a different thing. And so the execution of that, and I'm not blaming anybody for that idea. I'm not faulting them for that. In fact, I've tried to implement, the reason that I know it doesn't work is that I've tried to implement curfews, mm-hmm. Only to find the limitations of doing so. And also always feeling somewhat uncomfortable. Is this the right tool to apply to this situation?
Switching gears just a little bit, what are y'all going to do about the homeless people in Jackson? They deserve the opportunity to get back on their feet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, there are a few things. One, we think that finding the solution to homelessness requires that we have an accurate count. Most cities, Jackson included, do what you call a point-in-time count, which is a very brief, only a moment where you're counting your homeless population, and you usually do it to get federal funding. And so we need to actually have a better count because the homeless population is a mobile population. They move about. People don't always stay in homeless in a state of being unhoused. There are people who are moving out of homelessness and people who are unfortunately becoming homeless. And so when we get that proper count, then we want to break down that data. We want to understand who is homeless for a lack of housing and who is homeless for a lack of services or a need for services, meaning drug addiction or, mental health challenges or, any number of things that could ultimately lead to someone being unhoused. And we want to be able to provide those solutions because you can give someone in that state a house and they will find themselves in the state of homelessness again because we hadn't addressed the issue that led them on the street in the first place. And so we have that happening, trying to get the appropriate count, and we're working with some continuum of care organizations to create transitional housing. What you find typically, and I understand people are always concerned about their home, their safety, their community, where actually the rate of violence among the unhoused is very low. And so it's more the unsightliness of the unhoused condition and the materials that they bring around that people usually are most against. But where most people agree that you should do something for the unhoused, they don't necessarily agree that those programs should be in their community. It's called NIMBYism, not in my backyard. And then there are times as mayor that I have to simply say that if you can't get used to transitional housing in your backyard, then you should get used to homelessness in your front yard.
Right, because they need somewhere to go regardless.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have another question for you, but I feel like I don't have enough time for you to fully answer it. So I want you to take these last 30 seconds maybe and just once again implore those who may want to ask you a question to send their questions in.
Well, I just want to share that I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of our communications team to put together this segment. And I appreciate the questions of our residents. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to not only hear what's on your mind, but as I meet you in the community, share potential solutions that you have to these problems. A long time ago, I said that when I become mayor, you become mayor. That's not only a statement about the accountability that I owe you, but it's a shared responsibility that will never solve Jackson's problems just because of the ideas that I have, but because of our collective genius. And so this gives us an opportunity to better understand.
If you do have questions for the mayor, you can go to our social media, to the City of Jackson's Facebook page. You can also go to the City of Jackson's website, and it's jacksonms.gov. And there's a Google Doc on there. Just click the link. It'll take you there, and you can ask your question. I'm going to tease to next segment. When we do, there are people who are wanting to know about your relationship with the City Council. So you'll have to tune in next time.
Can't imagine why that's a question.
I'm giving you too much time to even think about that answer. But if you have some questions, make sure that you check us out. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us. Mayor, thank you so much for being a part of this. We are all out of time. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you next time.